Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Mark the Great and we are back today's video. Today we're going to be talking about the top 10 best running backs or halfbacks in NFL history. As you guys know, this is not my first time doing a top 10 list for people that actually been watching me for a little while. My first video on this channel actually did a top 10 list of the top 10 best defenses of all time. If you guys want to go check that out, please click the top right of your screen as you can go check that video out, or you can stay this one, that is completely fine. But anyways, of course I got the 10 best running backs. I thought that they were top 10 worthy and made a list out of it. Now of course this is completely subjective in my opinion and it is subject to change, so actually I made a lot of adjustments on the way up to recording this, as you know, and a week from now, if you ask me like a week from now, this will probably change anyway. So anyways, let's get onto the list. If you guys have not already, drop a like on this video, that'd be much appreciated, and if you guys have not subscribed to the channel, then please do so, as I post videos like these weekly. And yeah, so let's get on to the video. Now before we actually get on to the list, I actually want to go over some honorable mentions or people that I thought that could have made the list but didn't due to some circumstances. But let me get into the first one, which is going to be Adrian Peterson. I think Adrian Peterson is definitely on this list right now. I think he's definitely a worthy contender, as he's starting to break some records, and of course he did break some records in the past, with his 2,000-yard rushing season, which is fantastic, and of course him winning the MVP, I think, back in 2012. So I think that's very impressive. But just because of the fact that his career is not over yet, I decided to leave him off the list. But if you ask me, I think Adrian Peterson's definitely a top 5. Just because he's not done yet, I'm just gonna say he's a step to the list for now. And the other honorable mention is gonna go to Frank Gore. Now he's actually very underrated here, and unlike Adrian Peterson, because everybody knows Adrian Peterson, but Frank Gore, he's very consistent. He's a consistent 1,000-yard rusher. He's breaking records himself, as he's rushing for around 13,000 yards and counting. So by the time it's all said and done, they're both Hall of Famers, and I believe that they're both really good backs. So I just want to give them a quick little shout out here. But anyway, let's continue. Alright, coming in at the number 10 spot on this list is going to be Earl Campbell. Now Earl Campbell, aka the Tyler Rose, is by far one of the better backs of the 70s and late 70s and early 80s, as he has made some crazy accomplishments at his time and has been revolutionary at his time. 5'11" and 245 pounds, he's a very powerful back. With that, along with his power, he has a lot of speed behind it, which makes him a very dangerous back. I would consider him probably the best halfback at his time, so that's definitely a reason why he's on this list. Not to mention he has ran for 9,407 yards and 74 touchdowns, which is very impressive in the early 80s and 70s. Also what's the big reason why he's on this list is by far he was very dominant during his time. So if I would say from 1978 to 1980, he was probably considered the best player in the NFL at that time. So I don't think anybody was really better than Earl Campbell from 1978 to 1980. He was even solid in 1981, and of course he had that off year in 1982, which is a partial big reason why he's not really past number 10. But he had a big downfall in 1982. Of course he had a little bit of a bounce back in 83, but he really did fall off later in his career, which is the reason why he's number 10. He didn't really last that long. Of course he's got an MVP, he's got a Offensive Rookie of the Year, he's got 3 All-Pros, 5 Pro Bowls, which is, all that's very impressive. But I think the fact that he just didn't play that long and really didn't dominate as long, I would keep him at the number 10 spot. But definitely by far a great running back. Now the number 9 spot, I'm gonna have to give it to Curtis Martin. And if you want to go with stats here, for those who actually know what Curtis Martin is or know of him, he would definitely be a top 5 back, but there's a little bit more to the equation here. Now when I made these top 10 lists for these backs, I decided to go off of stats, awards, and overall impact of the game, and Curtis Martin has definitely filled out a couple of those slots, as he's rushed for 14,101 yards, which is actually 4th among all halfbacks, which is actually very impressive, and has ran for 90 touchdowns, which is really good as well. As you guys know, he's started in the New England and went to the Jets and played there for 8 years, and eventually ended up rushing 1,000 yards consistently every single year of his career, which is the reason why he's got so many yards. And he's played a little bit longer than Earl Campbell, which I give him the edge for longevity. And he, of course, all those rushing yards, as he hasn't really had a breakout season. He just really stayed consistently 1,000 yards. So I definitely give him the credit where credit is due. But of course the reason why he's number 9, just because I don't feel like he's got a lot of he didn't really impact the game as much. He was kind of a do your job kind of back, and just got it done, and got it done pretty well, as he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Alright then, so the number 8 spot, I'm gonna have to give it to LaDainian Tomlinson. Now this is actually a very controversial pick, and in the beginning I actually had him a lot higher, but I decided to move him down just because I felt some of the other backs was a little bit better than he did. But overall, LaDainian Tomlinson is absolutely a complete monster here. here. Now, look at the stats right here. He's rushed for over 13,000 yards, ran for 140 plus touchdowns. This man's absolutely insane. And of course, he made a big impact in the game, as he's definitely one of the better speed backs of the early 2000s, and he's really overall impacted some of the newer backs that came after his time, like Reggie Bush, Alvin Kamara, and so on. So I believe that he's really had a big influence in the game, and of course with his 28 touchdown season was absolutely insane, and he almost running for almost 2,000 rushing yards is actually a crazy feat in itself, and actually got an MVP, which is, of course, we all know it's very hard to get at the running back spot. So I'm definitely giving more credits due. Let's move on. All right, so the number 7 spot, I'm gonna have to give it to my man O.J. Simpson, or aka the Juice. We all know about O.J. Simpson after his career, but during his career, I would probably say he's probably the most important player back in the 1970s, as he was able to do some crazy feats that I've never seen before. This man was completely revolutionary. He was actually the first halfback in NFL history to run for 2,000 yards, which is absolutely insane, especially, during 1973. It's 1973. It was really hard to get, rushing yards, especially with that hard-nosed, defense and all that stuff. I think it's the fact that he got 2,000 rushing yards at his, at that time, was just absolutely insane, which is the reason why I gotta put him up here past LT and Curtis Martin here. So he was absolutely dominant up until 1976, I would say, but he was very, very dominant in what he did. He was a really good power back, very slim, but also very powerful. So I would definitely give it, with that 6'2" build, you gotta love O.J. Simpson here. But O.J. Simpson's by far he's actually the best back in the 1970s, I would say, just flat out, no questions asked, just the best. Now here comes the second controversial pick. Number 6, I'm gonna give it to Marshall Faulk. Now, when looking at Marshall Faulk and O.J. Simpson's stats side by side, you actually see a big difference, as O.J. Simpson did actually run consistently more yards than Marshall Faulk did. But the main difference here is that, of course, overall, Marshall Faulk was able to play longer, but I would say that Marshall Faulk was a more complete back than any of the backs I've said on this list. Marshall Faulk was able to, of course, receive the ball. He was able to catch the ball and able to run the ball with it, as he was actually one of the first, besides Roger Craig, one of the first backs to actually, get 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing in the exact same year. So the fact that he was able to get 2,000 yards to scrimmage was absolutely insane. So I would just give it to Marshall Faulk here, just because he was a more complete back and he was more versatile than the other backs I mentioned on this list. All right, so for the number 5 spot, this is coming to the top 5. So I'm gonna have to give this one to Eric Dickerson here. Now, Eric Dickerson was just a complete insane back in his early years. As you guys know, he's drafted in 1983 in that really famous 1983 draft, and boy, did this man start out running. This man ran for 1,800 yards in his rookie year. That is absolutely insane, and I've never, I just don't see that. You don't see that nowadays anymore. And of course, his 1984 season, which is pretty famous, as he's ran for 2,105 yards, which is the most in NFL history, which is absolutely insane. The way that this guy just started out, it was just absolutely insane. Not to mention his build is almost unstoppable, as he's considered a speed back actually at 6'3". So that's nuts. And he was just also a very, very complete back. I wouldn't say complete as Marshall Faulk, but just the fact that he was just that good in his time, I just gotta put that over Marshall Faulk. There's just no questions asked there. All right, coming at the number 4 spot, I'm gonna have to give it to Emmitt Smith here. Now, a lot of people think that this is kind of low, and I can see what you mean by that. I can definitely see what these people mean. Of course, he has the most rushing yards by any running back ever. He has the most rushing touchdowns by any running back ever. This guy has every single stat, but the only reason why I say that is just because, by natural talent wise, like a solid back, I would probably say that he's not the best as actual talent goes. But overall, this guy is completely insane. As you guys know, he has the most rushing yards and the most rushing touchdowns in any running back history, which is absolutely insane. He's a 3-time Super Bowl champion, which is, it's a big accomplishment. I know that he was with Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin, those two guys in the triplets, but I think he was, probably the most dominant part of those triplets. I think he was by far the most relevant one. So, I think that if he's the best of the best at that time, I think you gotta give this some credit to that. So Emmitt Smith is by far definitely a top 5 back, and he is number 4 on this list. So the number 3 spot is gonna have to go to Walter Payton. Now, Walter Payton, this was very, very hard for me, because originally, actually, want to be quite honest with you, I thought that Walter Payton was number 1 on this list, just because that a lot of the backs, a lot of the backs I mentioned on this list were basically a version of Walter Payton. A lot of them, Walter Payton was really the foundation of of the new age of running back here. So like when you watch these new backs today, I think I see a lot of Walter Payton. A lot of people see a lot of Walter Payton, and of course another guy I'm gonna mention on this list. But you see a lot of Walter Payton. I think he was one of the big foundations of the today's NFL running backs in this era. So I think Walter Payton was just very important. That's why he's number 3. This is like the impact of the game. He just made a huge impact, and especially on the team he played, the Chicago Bears, which were not really that good up until, of course, the mid to late 1980s. But that was near the end of his career. So I don't even talk about that. But overall, Walter Payton was just an absolute machine. He can basically get a whole team and put it on his back and just carry it throughout the season. This guy is absolutely insane. And of course, you guys already know. So enough said. Let's get on to number 2. So number 2, I'm gonna have to give it to Jim Brown. Now, Jim Brown, this guy was absolutely nuts, man. Especially the time he played. So this man ran for 12,000 yards and retired in like the 60s and like late 70s. I mean, not late 70s, early 70s. So this guy was absolutely insane. This man, he's an NFL champion. Of course, he was pre-Super Bowl. He was the only halfback list that's pre-Super Bowl era. This guy's absolutely nuts. He played for 9 years and made the Pro Bowl every single year. This guy's absolutely nuts. Ran for 1,000 yards for every year he ran for. So 12,000 yards in 9 years. That sounds pretty good. Of course, he did retire very, very early. I think if he played a little bit longer, he probably would have like up to 15,000 rushing yards. So that's absolutely insane. Especially in the time area he played in was absolutely it was nuts. Of course, this guy deserves a lot of respect. And of course, like I said for Walter Payton, he's actually the first foundation. Jim Brown was the first foundation of the backs that come after him. So like I think every single back has a little bit of Jim Brown in him. They run like Jim Brown. So I think this guy was the foundation of every back just after him, just like any back. So for the number 1 spot, I think you guys can use some process of elimination here and understand who's number 1, the best running back in my opinion in NFL history, and that's gonna have to be the Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders, this guy is by far the best running back in NFL history. Now I know I decided to like switch it back and forth, but I just can't deny it. Barry Sanders is so much better than any other back in history. Now, of course, he also, like Jim Brown, retired very, very early. I think if Barry Sanders did keep playing, he would definitely have more than 18,000. I think he would have 20,000 rushing yards. This guy's absolutely insane, and he played for 10 years and he made the Pro Bowl every single year. So this guy has 10 Pro Bowls on his resume, which is, I can't even fathom that. You can't really beat that. He's more talented. He's just more complete. He's like Walter Payton and Jim Brown combined, but like even faster and even more elusive. This guy is absolutely nuts. I wish that I could like see a live game this man play. This guy is absolutely crazy. I can just rant about this guy all day. I think he's definitely in the top 3 best players in NFL history. This guy's just that insane in my opinion. So of course that's just my opinion, and yeah, this pretty much marked the end of this video. I don't want you guys, what do you guys think? Who should be the number 1 best back? You guys agree with me? Think it's Barry, or you guys think it's someone else? Please comment down that below, and I would like to know. Anyway guys, if you have not already subscribed to this channel, I much appreciate it. I post NFL content like this weekly, so you guys do not want to miss out. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. So anyways guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a great day.